Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our co-main event for UFC Vegas 113, and what many could say is the real main event of the card, as as Amir Albaze takes on Kyoji Horiguchi in what is probably my favorite fight in the card, simply just because I'm a big fan of Kyoji Horiguchi. This is one of those fights that feels like a true chess match in many ways. Even though it looks explosive on paper, as Albazi, he's a high energy, aggressive, dynamic fighter, constantly hunting for opportunities. Meanwhile, Horiguchi, on the other hand, is a veteran technician, precise, fast, and extremely difficult to hit. The big question isn't just who can hit harder, it's who can control the pace and force the other to fight on their terms. And I think Horiguchi gets this done against, Horiguchi has done on this against some of the best in the world. And I think that experience and discipline make him the pick here. But that being said, let's look at their last five. For Kyoji, he's currently 4-0-1 in his last five fights. That one fight being a no contest against Makoto Shiru, which was accidental eye poke. But besides that, on a nice 4-fight win streak, some good wins in Ryzen, including beating Sergio Pettis. Then Horiguchi won his return fight in the UFC by just beating Tagir Ulanbekov pillar the post last November in Qatar, and now gets a pretty good quick turnabout in a fight that definitely, if Horiguchi wins this, and especially in impressive fashion, like getting a finish, he might just jump the line and be next in line for the title. It's very possible. Meanwhile, for Amir Albaze, currently 4-1 in his last five fights, he was undefeated in the UFC and had some good wins against, for example, Francisco Figueiredo, Zamagulov, Alessandro Costa, and then his most recent win was almost 3 years ago when he beat Kai Kara France. Granted, Albazi has been out due to injuries for quite a while, as his last fight was over a year ago when he lost to Brandon Moreno November of 2024. Now, he was supposed to take on Tetsuro Taira last August, but unfortunately, Albazi had to pull out of that fight. Again, just a lot of injuries have kind of played his career and why he hasn't been as active as possible. Well, but still, this is a great fight and maybe the highest skilled level fight on the card. It's tough to say because the main event is also very high level and against two really good bantamweights, but you could argue I think this is the most technically skilled fight on the card. But with that being said, let's get down to the breakdown. Going over their styles, starting with Amir Albazi. Amir Albazi can be very exciting because he thrives at being unpredictable. He's fast, he moves well, and he's aggressive from the first bell. As Albazi likes to push the pace, create angles, and throw combinations that can overwhelm opponents. His striking is clean, and his takedown defense and overall takedown is very solid. But I would say Albazi is his best trait is how he mixes it up, switching stances, changing rhythms, and keeping opponents guessing. Mostly throwing sudden strikes like that uppercut that he knocked out Alessandro Costa with, or the scrambling he did against Malcolm Gordon, where he wound up on top. Gordon was able to reverse, but Albazi cinched in a triangle choke. Definitely, though, Amir Albazi, his greatest strength would be his grappling and wrestling, as he's pretty dominant with that, especially his back control. But the downside for Albazi is that his aggression sometimes create openings, and he can get pulled into exchanges he didn't plan for, like how basically Brandon Moreno was able to style on him for a vast majority of their fight. I mean, honestly, Albazi couldn't really get a thing going because Moreno was just able to pick his spots so well. And while Albazi wasn't always being aggressive to the point of being a detriment, it just never went as planned. And I think against a precise counter striker like Horiguchi, those little mistakes can cost him. And his defensive laps, even small, are magnified at this level of competition. Meanwhile, looking at Kyoji, For Horiguchi, he is a textbook master of timing and precision. You have to remember, his only loss in the UFC is to Demetrius Johnson. Nobody else. Nobody else in the UFC has beaten this guy. All right, and if Hanato Moicano, if what he says is true, then Kyoji Horiguchi is the best fighter in ATT. Now, that's quite a big accolade, considering how many fighters they have and how many champions they produce. But, he is definitely one of the best fighters that gym has produced in my mind. As Horiguchi, his striking is crisp, very fast and calculated. Kyoji he's not just landing punches, he's landing shots that disrupt rhythm, sap energy, and force mistakes. As Horiguchi also has excellent footwork, which allows him to avoid danger while staying in position to counter. On top of that, he has solid wrestling and grappling awareness, so Albaze can't just lean on scrambles or clinches exchanges to slow Kyoji down. And Kyoji's style is about controlling the fight without overextending. He doesn't need to force things. He lets opponents make mistakes and punish them quite efficiently. And that's a huge advantage against someone like Albaze, who thrives on creating chaos. Now, how I see they clash. Now, how I see these two clash. This fight is a classic aggressor versus counter matchup, as Albaze will likely try to push forward, use angles, and land combinations to unsettle Horiguchi. And early exchanges could be exciting, with Albaze moving a lot and forcing Horiguchi to react. Horiguchi, however, is incredibly hard to hit cleanly, as he is just one of the fastest fighters in the flyweight division, very good at moving in and out that sort of karate-like stance. And he's going to read Albaze's movements, time counters, and make him pay for overcommitting. And any wild shot or reckless combination from Albaze is an opportunity for Horiguchi to land precise strikes, or even set up a takedown if the exchanges goes the wrong way. And I think clinch situations or scrambles might even favor Horiguchi in this matchup, as he's comfortable controlling opponents and using his positioning to neutralize bursts of aggression. And, Albaze can't just rely on volume. He has to land meaningful strikes and avoid mistakes, which is difficult against a veteran who reads the fight as well as Horiguchi. And I think the longer this fight goes on, the more it favors Horiguchi, as Albaze's pace is impressive, but it can't be sustained at full intensity if Horiguchi keeps controlling the rhythm, landing counters, and forcing him to reset consistently. And it's the kind of fight where one clean counter or one well-timed strike can swing around decisively. So for my prediction, I think early on, Albaze is going to be dangerous. Fast combinations, good aggressive wrestling, good scrambling, good submissions, and could even earn him points or even a momentary edge. But I think Horiguchi's composure and precision will gradually take over. He'll punish mistakes, control the distance, and dictate where exchanges happen. And I see Horiguchi winning the majority of the exchanges on the feet. He is just a much better striker, playing his day, as he's going to land cleaner, more damaging shots while avoiding Albaze's flashier bursts. And even if Albaze stays aggressive and tries to turn into a brawl, Horiguchi's just, smart enough to make it uncomfortable and capitalize on openings. As this could end in a decision, it could also end early if Horiguchi times the right counter. Now, Albaze has not been finished in any of his losses. It's really just been decision, but I definitely think it's a possibility of Horiguchi. I mean, you saw him submit to Ulanbekov, so nothing's out of the realm of possibility for Horiguchi. So, for my official prediction, though, I'm going to go with Kyoji Horiguchi, and I think I'm going to pick him in a knockout in this fight. I think he holds a bit more power. Now, Albaze showed his toughness against Moreno when he took a lot of shots to the face, but Moreno isn't a terrifying knockout artist. A lot of his finishes either come from real scramble-heavy submissions or just well-timed counters. Not great power. But I think Horiguchi has not only the power, but the combination of speed and timing to not hurt Albaze consistently in this fight. Especially he lands those leg kicks that he was damaging to gear with, or even just fake him into a head kick, which I could also see as possible. Hell, I can see Horiguchi hurting Albaze on the feet. Albaze shoots for a desperate takedown and then gets caught in a submission. So I definitely think a finish is possible in this fight. And I actually lean towards that a lot. So once again, for my official prediction, I'm going to pick Kyoji Horiguchi, and I'm going to pick him via knockout of this fight. But with that being said, that's been my breakdown of this matchup. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. And remember, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see you all next time.